All right, so we're starting from the top again. Welcome to the Fix Your Running Form Challenge. Woo! I'm so excited that you guys are here with me today. Just to have an idea about where you guys are from, just let me know where you guys are from. We have people from all over. So just want to get an idea what neighborhood you run in. And also, what kind of runner are you? Are you a long distance runner? Do you run marathons, 5Ks? Do you run around the block? Are you a sprinter? Or do you run for sports? So let me know. Awesome. St. Louis. St. Louis in the house. Okay, well, I'm in LA in case you didn't know. Sunny LA. And I just want to get an idea, just so I make sure I address your biggest challenge. What is like your biggest challenge when it comes to running? So if you guys can let me know that, hopefully I can address that in the next 3 days. Awesome. So we got some trail runners, distance runners, Long Beach, and Houston, Texas. All right, wonderful. So let me know what you guys' biggest running challenge is. And then also, what do you hope to get out of this challenge? Like, why did you sign up for the challenge? What is the thing that you're hoping to get out of it over the next 3 days? So hopefully I can get that for you. Okay, so just to give you an idea about what we're going to be doing throughout the next 3 days, it's called the Fix Your Running Form Challenge, and that's essentially what we're going to be doing. So my name is Martise Moore, and I am known as the Run Faster Coach. So over the next 3 days, I'm going to be your coach, helping you fix your running form. Okay. And what I normally do with any new client who comes to me is I recommend that they all go through my foundation training, okay, which is 3 parts. And this challenge is essentially going to be the first part of my foundation training, which is helping people find their fastest form. Okay, so that's what we're going to be going over the next 3 days. And today, we're actually going to be going over the most underrated stuff when it comes to running that will actually help you fix your running form and help you get less injuries or unwanted pains. Okay, so let's get started. So the first underrated thing when it comes to running is full range of motion. All right, so full range of motion is imperative if you want to have efficient running form. Are any of you people guilty of not stretching? Because that's what essentially is going to help you get full range of motion. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you like the head to toe stretches that I recommend that you do before every run. Okay, because everything is connected. All right. Even though let's say your head or your neck is tight, or your neck and shoulders are tight, well, that can influence your ability to swing your arms, okay, which influences your overall momentum when you run. Okay, so that's why we do head to toe, even though running is mostly legs, that's correct, but it is actually a full body sport. So we need the entire body to have full range of motion, so that way we can have our most efficient form. All right, so these are the stretches that I normally do before every run and that hopefully you can implement into your routine as well. Okay, so we would start with neck circles. Okay, so just rolling the head all around, okay, and then reversing it. All right, and then over to the side, because gets real tight in here for me, I don't know about you. And then over to the other side, okay? And then the shoulder rolls, this really helps loosen this area up because this can be really tight and it completely affects your ability to swing your arms. All right, and then we have arm swings, okay, to loosen up your arms even more. Okay, and then arm circles. All right, and then reverse. Okay, and then trunk twists. Okay, this helps loosen up the lower back and the upper back. Okay, and then we want to hold it and then switch. Okay, because your back has a lot to do with your ability to run, FYI. I'm sure if you had ever had any back pain, you realize that if your back hurts, the running's not happening. Okay, and then now we want to loosen up the hips by doing some hip circles. Big circle like you're hula hooping. All right, and then we're going to reverse it. Okay, and then a forward bend. All right, so this helps loosen up the hamstrings. And you know what else is important about stretching is not only does it help you get full range of motion, but it lets you know what's tight. Because a lot of times we have no idea, so now I'm lunging to the side, we have no idea that we're tight until we do stuff like this. Okay, because like when you're just walking around, a lot of times you don't realize you're tight, but then when you go to stretch, it's like, oh, that's really tight. Okay, because that's really important to know what's going on with your body before you start running. Okay, because we don't want to surprise any of our muscles when we're out on a run. That's how you get hurt. Okay, so now we're going to grab our ankle to stretch the quads. Okay, now this is a big one. For all of you guys who have knee pain out there, if you're not doing this stretch, that's probably part of your problem. Okay, so because I'm going to give you a real big hint right now. We're going to do the other side. Is a lot of times knee pain has nothing to do with your knees. So for a lot of you who are constantly having knee pain, a lot of times it's just because the muscles that are surrounding your knees, like your quads or your IT bands, are tight. Okay, so it's like if you ever have any knee pain, your first instinct should be to stretch your legs, like completely, because a lot of times that will alleviate the pain, because what's happening is the muscles are super tight around your knees and it's just pulling on it and it hurts. Okay, so and actually I'm going to go through some stretches to get more into that knee pain area in a minute. Okay, so now that we stretched our calves, now we want to loosen up our ankles by doing ankle circles, drawing a circle with our toe. Okay, and then we're going to reverse it, drawing another circle, and then point, flex, point, flex. This also helps stretch the calf. Okay, and then let's do the other foot. Okay, reverse and point, flex, in case you can't see. All right, great. So now we've done all of that, and I was just talking about calves. Okay, later in the challenge, we're actually going to talk about foot strike and those kinds of things. But what happens is what I'm going to be teaching you, it actually might make your calves tighter than usual, okay? And I'm guessing most of you already have tight calves. So I'm going to show you like the 3 best ways to stretch your calves, okay? So if you have like a tree or a fence or something like that, that's ideal, all right? So what you want to do is you want to put your foot up against the fence and get your foot as vertical as possible, okay? And then the back foot, you're going to get on the toe and push your hips forward, okay? This is like the best way to stretch your calves because it gets the calf and all the way up to the back of the knee. Notice how my hips are forward and I'm standing tall. I'm not bent over like this, okay? We always want to practice being tall when we're running. Okay, and especially when we're doing static stretches or exercises, we want to always like start training our body to stay tall because we don't want to be like this when we run. All right, we're going to get into that another day. But okay, so that's like the best way to stretch your calves. The second best way to stretch your calves is if you have some kind of step or a curb on the sidewalk. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. You could just put one foot on the curb. Don't have a curb here, so let's just pretend. Okay, you put one foot on the curb, the other foot is on the curb too, and then you're just gonna drop your heel. So let's say I'm doing my left leg here. I'm doing my left leg. I'm just gonna drop my left heel off the curb to stretch my calf, okay? And then I'm gonna do the other one like this, all right? And then the third best way to do it is if you don't have any of these things, you could get down on the ground, okay, in a plank position, and then put your foot on the back of your heel, all right, and stretch your calf like that. Okay, so this is like the third best way if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have nothing to use. This will get the job done too. Okay, but I highly recommend using a fence, a tree, something like that, a wall, when you have it available. All right, so who out there knows they need to do more stretching? Okay, I'm sure some of you realize, maybe I could do some more, because I'm telling you, like a lot of times people think I'm a miracle worker just because I can help them alleviate their knee pain. But the secret is stretch first, okay? Because a lot of times that helps get rid of a lot of unneeded pain, okay? So I did promise you I was gonna show you a stretching sequence you could use if you have some knee pain, all right? Or it just in general, you feel very tight and you need to get more loose, okay? The good news is I'm not gonna tell you you need a roller, but in a lot of cases it is a good idea, but none of the stretches I'm gonna show you today involve a roller, okay? So what we wanna do, let me get my mat here. Okay, so we wanna get on the ground, okay, and we're gonna lay down. Okay, we're gonna lay down. Oh, the sun is on my face. Turn this way. We're gonna lay down and we're gonna pull our knee to our chest. Okay, this really feels good, like in the upper thigh region. That ran because I had no idea I was this tight up there. So, like again, that's another reason why you want to stretch, because a lot of times you have no idea how tight you are. Okay, and then we want to push the knee over to the side. Okay, and look back this way. So this helps stretch like the glute, okay, and your lower back. All right. And remember, everything's all connected. So if this stuff is tight, it could pull on your knee. Okay, and then we're going to do the other side. So we're pulling towards our chest. Okay, and then we're going to twist and look back this way. Okay. All right. Then we're going to just lay all the way down and pull like our leg towards our face. This helps stretch the hamstring. Okay, so if the hamstring is tight, it could pull on the back of your knee or do other worse things. Okay, so we don't want that. So again, we're going to switch here. Okay, and then we're going to use momentum to sit up and reach for our toes. So we're getting the hamstrings again. Okay, and then we're going to put the leg back like in a hurdle stretch. Okay, and then reach for the toe. Okay, this really gets an even more deep hamstring stretch. And then if you lay back, now you could either do here, this is modified, less modified, all the way down. This really helps stretch your quad really good. And a lot of times it's this quad being tight that pulls on the knee. Okay, and then we're gonna switch. So left leg back, reach for the right toe. Okay, and then lay back to stretch the quad. All right, and then you can just sit up and put your feet together and lean forward to get like the inner crotch area here. So you could do all those, like if you need like an extra stretch after your run, these are the kind of exercises that you want to do. And a lot of times this immediately helps alleviate the knee pain. Now, let's say you still have knee pain. You're like, well, that didn't work. Okay, there's one more thing that you can do, and you need actually 2 people to do it. So I'm going to show you with just me, but you need someone else to help you do this, all right, for it to really work well. So This is called a P&F stretch, where you're going to lay back and somebody is going to push your leg back towards your face for you. Okay. And you're going to hold it for like a 10 count. Okay. And then what's going to happen is they're going to say push. And while they're pushing your leg this way, you're going to be pushing your leg this way against them. Okay. So they're just going to give you a little bit of resistance so that your leg only moves like this fast. Okay. So you're going to push as hard as you can, and they're going to give you enough resistance so that way it only moves this fast or this slow. Okay. And then you're going to do it again. So you want to do this like 3 times on each leg. And this is just a great way to just stretch your hamstrings in general. But a lot of times this also helps with the knee situation. Okay. So hopefully you learned a new stretch that you can do, or you started to more appreciate the value of stretching. Because I know some people, maybe not you, but some people are not big into stretching. And I tell you, it just makes your running life so much better if you do it. Okay. And especially if you're inflexible, like we tend not to do the things that we're not good at or that hurt. Okay. But this will save you a lot of drama and a lot of pain. All right. And I didn't show you anything with the roller, but obviously that can get even more deep. And I do like to use a roller for my IT bands because this is one of the muscles that it's kind of hard to stretch it. So you want to use like a roller to get these things, because these are definitely a lot of times the culprit on knee pain. All right. So anybody have any questions about stretching? No? Okay. Well, now I'm going to move on to the next most underrated thing that when it comes to fixing your running form. Okay. And that is, what we need to do is we need to make sure that not only do we have full range of motion, but we also just need to make sure that we're right in the right headspace, okay, to run well. All right. And excuse me, we also need to make sure that we're thinking, okay, running takes your whole entire body, but there is one major unrated part of your body that people completely forget. I guess it's just not sexy or whatever, I don't know. But it's these puppies right here, your hips, okay? A lot of times people forget about how important hip strength is. All right, everybody's working on their legs or working on their arms or even working on their abs. But people often ignore how important the hip area region is for any kind of movement, really, but especially for running. Okay. And the reason why hip strength is so very important is because, one, your hips, your lower abs, and your glutes, all of this is part of like the stabilization of your body. Okay. So that means when you're running, you know how like stuff is uneven out there, what you're running on, whether it's grass, concrete, or whatever. Most of the time you're running on uneven you're running on uneven like places to run. So what you want to do is you want to have your body be as stable as possible, because when your body is unstable, it uses all this extra energy to try to become stable. So now you're wasting energy trying to get your body to be stable when you run. Also, obviously, if you're unstable, now you're more likely to get hurt, because if you're unstable, you know, things are like jostling around that shouldn't be jostling around. That's probably not a good thing. If things are moving in a way that they're not supposed to, you're probably more likely going to get hurt. All right. And then the other thing is, when your body is not stable, oftentimes another body part tries to take over to make up for the lack of stability. And now that thing is doing something it's not supposed to be doing. And that thing now is more likely to get hurt because it's being overworked, and especially it's being overworked in a way that it's not supposed to be. Okay. So hip strength, obviously core and glute strength is all important, but we're really going to be focusing on the hips. Another reason why you want strong hips is because the stronger your hips are, the less everything below them has to work, including your knees, your shins, your ankles, all those things. So when you have less pressure on your knees and everything else down there, they're less likely to get hurt. Because, you know, when we're running on concrete especially, there's all this extra force that's going into the body. Okay, and tomorrow we're going to get into like how your feet should land to minimize that force. But the hips are so critically important, and it's so often missed by everyone. Okay, so that's why I'm like, if you can start implementing hip exercises into your training routine, you're going to be way ahead of the game. You'll be like, why didn't I know this before? Okay, so again, another reason why we want strong hips is it makes everything below your hips take on less impact, because that is part of the hip's job, is to minimize the impact or stabilize the body. Okay. Another reason why the hip strength is so important is because when we run, we always want a straight line to be going from our ear down to our ankle. Okay, so when we run, the foot comes out here and then it lands on the ground. And we always want this straight line in the body. When you have strong hips, your hips stay forward the whole time, so you can keep this straight line. See how like my ear, hip, and ankle are all in alignment? Okay, but for people who don't have strong hips, this is what happens. This little tiny movement right here is called sitting. Okay, now you see how like the line's not straight anymore? Okay, that little movement can really mess your body up. Okay, because one, it's out of balance, and now it's harder to pick your legs up than if your hips are straight. Okay, and it's harder to stand up tall, which again, remember, that's what we want when we're running, is we want to be tall when we run. Okay, so I can't emphasize this enough. Strong hips is what you want to be a more durable runner and to help fix your running form in general. Okay, because oftentimes too, when I was telling you about how like the body will compensate for weak hips, a lot of times that manifests in something like this. Okay, so if you notice that one of your feet kind of goes its own way instead of forward, which is the direction we want to go, a lot of times it's because of a weak hip. So like if you notice there's like this correlation between the fact that your foot is going this way and then this knee always seems to hurt more than this one, it's probably because your hip is weak. Okay, so I'm going to show you 4 hip strengthener exercises that you can rotate. I highly recommend that you do like a hip exercise on a consistent basis, like every weekday if you can, because this is something that it takes a long time to build up the strength if your hips are actually weak. And then this is something that you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose the strength in your hips, because then it just totally affects the whole rest of your body in terms of this performance. All right, so hip exercise number 1 is just jumping jacks. Okay, everybody knows how to do those. All right, so just depending on who you are, so I'm just assuming all of you are adults at this point. If you're an adult, you want to go ahead and do anywhere from 50 to 100 jumping jacks. Okay, it's real easy to do. You can knock them out real quick and you can do them anywhere. Okay, another hip exercise you could do is a standing side leg lift. Okay, so what we want to do is we just want to stand up tall and then lift our leg up, very controlled, okay, up and down. So none of this, no swinging momentum. We want a very controlled lift and descent, okay? So we want to do that like 30 times. So you could do like 10 times on each leg in 3 sets, okay? Now it's going to burn your glute and your hip, but you'll be fine. Okay, better to have a little bit of burn now than have major issues later, especially in your shin or knee area. Okay. Now, a third exercise you could do to help strengthen your hips is a crab walk. And this is actually better if you use a band. Okay, so without the band, it looks like this, where you're gonna just squat a little bit, okay, and then you're just taking side steps, right? So we wanna take 30 steps in each direction. And if you use a band, you wanna put it around the middle of your thighs, okay? So that way you have some more resistance. So again, this is gonna burn, but it's really gonna help you out because you're gonna be so glad that you have strong glutes when you go up hills, okay? But right now we're really just focused on the hips. So obviously these exercises have multiple benefits, okay? And then finally, the best hip exercise for runners, get my mat again. Okay, the best exercise for runners are hip bridges. Okay, so sure you're familiar with this. You want to lay all the way down, feet flat on the ground. All right, and then you're going to press up through your heels. Okay, so you're going to press all the way up through your heels and you're going to hold it, okay? And you want to make sure you squeeze the butt. The squeezing of the butt is the most important part, okay? Because that helps force the stabilization that we want to have when we're running, okay? We want to start triggering and teaching the glutes to fire when we run, okay? So like that squeezing helps activate that, all right? So we want to go up and down 10 times, okay? So we want to hold this for like a 2 count. So 1, 2, down. 1, 2, squeezing, down. 1, 2, squeezing, okay? So that we're gonna do that 10 times. And then on the 10th one, we're gonna hold out one of our legs so that it's parallel with the other one while we're still squeezing, okay? Not like this, not like this, but here, okay? And what you wanna notice is that your hips are square and not tilting like this. Okay, so what we don't want, let's say I put this leg out, we don't want this, okay, because that's a clear indication that something's not right, okay? So your goal is to get your body to be able to stabilize even with your leg hanging out like that, okay? So we want to do 10 on each, 10 up and down, and then a 10 count holding out each leg, and you do that 3 sets. So it ends up being 30 total. And this one is the best hip strengthener specifically for runners because what we're doing is we're teaching the hips to stay forward and we're teaching the glutes to activate. Okay, so all of that will help you be way more durable runner. All right, so that's pretty much it for like the most underrated things that will help you fix your running form because we have to have basic foundation strength in order to fix our running form. Because later in the challenge, I'm going to show you the actual running form. But if your body can't perform it, then it's kind of all for naught, right? So that's why like this stuff is so critical and it's so underrated because everybody wants to skip over it. But I'm telling you, if you're tired of getting hurt, all right, or you want to get a PR and for whatever reason you're at this plateau, like getting some basic, well, not just basic, but full range of motion, you know, being able to do these kinds of things, okay, and having strong hips are going to be critical, okay? They're going to like save you so much pain and sorrow and time out, okay? So hopefully you guys will start implementing some of this stuff into your current routine if you aren't already. In fact, who saw an exercise that they think that they could start doing going forward that they haven't been doing? Let me know in the chat. All right, but just to see some of you Oh, so how long do you hold a stretch? Okay, so in general, I tend to hold a stretch for like a 10 count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then switch. Okay. But obviously, if you need more time because it's really bad, then go for it. What you never want to do though is force a stretch. So you never want to bounce into it like this. Okay, don't do that. In fact, all right, Dan, I'm gonna give you like a huge secret on how to get more flexible. Okay. So if you're one of these people that just weren't gifted with natural flexibility, not saying it's you, Dan, but anyway, this is what you can do for every single body part and it works great. Okay, so let's say you just want to get better at touching your toes. Okay, so let's say right now you can only reach to here when you touch your toes. Okay, so what we don't want to do is like do like this. Okay, no, no bouncing. Okay, so what we want to do is just want to hold it as far as it'll go, and then we want to reset. So we're going to hold it for that 10 count, and then we're going to reset for like a 10 count. Okay, then we're going to reach again for a 10 count. And see, like every time you reach, it actually should get better. Okay, and usually by the third time, it gets way better. Okay, so really the trick is to do 3 attempts, but you reset every time. Okay, so don't just hold it here for 30 seconds. Do like a 10 count and then reset. And then do it again and reset. And that works on like every body part extremely well. Okay, so that's a big, big tip. Okay, let's see. All of them. All right, well, good luck, Dan. Okay, so Robert's going to be adding the hip stretches to the workout. Great, that's awesome. Oh, post stretching. Yeah, so we were going to get into this later, but we could do it now. Okay, so I don't have anything to put my foot on. Let's see. Hold on. All right. Okay, so post stretching. So I showed you like the really deep stretches earlier that were on the mat that you can use for your knee, but those are also great deep post running stretches. Okay, or even pre-running stretches if you're really tight before, especially if you're going to do any kind of sprinting, you might want to add those in. All right, but let's say you just went for a casual run and you don't have all that kind of time and you feel good. Even if you feel good at the end of your run, I highly recommend that you take 2 minutes of your life to stretch because right now you're super warm, so your body is the most limber. Okay, don't get in the car and say, I'll do it when I get home. No, do it right then and there, and then you can do deeper stretches when you get home if you need it or roll. But while you're out and about, as soon as you finish and catch your breath, I'm gonna roll through like a quick 1 minute routine that you can do. It's not even a minute. Okay, so the first one is you put your foot up on something and you reach for the toe. Okay, because we're going to be stretching the hamstrings. The hamstring probably got tight while you were running, especially if you're doing any kind of speed. It definitely got tight. All right, and then you're going to turn. So notice how both my feet are faced this way. Okay, so your feet should always be pointed in the direction you're trying to go. Okay, that sounds super simple, but you'd be amazed. A lot of people don't pay attention to their foot placement. Okay, obviously it's critical when you run, but it's also a good idea to pay attention to it when you're stretching. All right, you have time now. You're not in the mix, running with all this momentum and like too tired to pay attention. You need to start training your body to always point in the direction you want it to go. Okay, so now this is me turning to the side, and I'm going to reach for this toe to stretch my hamstring and get this inner thigh right here. Okay, now if this is not enough of a stretch, I can always bend this knee to get deeper in here if you don't feel it. Okay, then we're going to turn forward and do a forward lunge. Now this helps stretch the hip flexor and like in the hips in general, but definitely gets that hip flexor that probably got tight if you did any kind of hills. But in general, we use these to move our legs. So like always a good idea to stretch these bad boys. Okay. And then again, we want to go back to the quad stretch, right? Okay, you guys can see. And then lastly, we want to stretch the calf on a fence, a wall, a tree, something. Okay, and then you just switch and do the other side. That takes like less than 2 minutes, but it's huge. All right, even if you feel good after the run, just don't like go on about your business. Knock this out real quick, and then now you've at least helped your body a little bit to be ready for the next run. Okay, and I guess that looks like all the questions. So what I want you guys to do is your homework for this challenge, remember this is a challenge, is think about like what you can do to improve your routine in terms of increasing your range of motion or strengthening your hips or both. Okay, so that's your homework for tonight, is to start thinking about ways you can make improvements, incremental improvements in those areas will pay off in spades when you run. Okay, so do that and then figure out how many times a week you're going to do them and just start adding that to your routine. Okay, so tomorrow we're actually going to get into actual running form. Okay, so make sure you show up tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm going to send out a link to the Zoom post for tomorrow, the live link, and there will be a replay of this. So like if you didn't take notes, not a problem, because I'm going to send you the replay. Keep in mind though that the replays are only going to be up through, I believe, Sunday night. So if you need to catch up, like let's say some of you had to drop off or something, or you miss one of the days, you need to make sure you catch up on all of them by Sunday night, because I'm taking them down. Okay, so come tomorrow ready to actually get into form, start working on actual body parts and how they should look or not look when you run. And I will see you guys tomorrow.